Welcome to I Got a Guy podcast, a podcast carefully designed to introduce a wide range of very talented and highly skilled professionals ready to share their knowledge and advice with you. Please welcome the host of I Got a Guy podcast, Michael Drelichars. Hello and welcome to I Got a Guy podcast. I'm your host, Michael Drelichars. Thank you so much for being with us yet again. We appreciate all of our loyal subscribers each week, and I know we're offering some awesome information from all of our guests that we've had over the years here. And today is no different. So we have another great show lined up. So I can't wait to get into the details. If you are new to I Got a Guy podcast, you can check out all of our past episodes. They're all listed at igotaguypodcast.com. That's igotaguypodcast.com. Just review the list of episodes. It's a short synopsis of each episode listed there. You can pick and choose which one you want to listen to. You can listen to them on any of your popular audio platforms. You can also watch the episodes on Rumble and on YouTube. So if you prefer to watch a podcast instead of listen to it, you can do that as well. So we try to be very accommodating with everything, all the different options there. But each week we come with a different guest, and I try to tie this our guest to the book that actually inspired this podcast is called The Go-Giver. Bob Berg wrote a great book about giving referrals and how referral networking is all about giving referrals. The common misnomer is that referral marketing is all about getting referrals. But the truth of the matter is, if you give referrals, you will get referrals in return. And in that book, The Go-Giver, he lists off 5 laws of stratospheric success. And the one I wanted to touch on today is the law of influence. And I think it relates to our guest really well. It's defined by your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interest first. Your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. And I've known this gentleman for several years, and I think when you get to know him, you're going to realize that he does put everyone's interest first in serving his clients and growing his business over the years. So let's get into the show, and let me introduce Jim Griseto. He is with Roppolo Realty. Jim, welcome to the show. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for asking me, Mike. I appreciate it.
Yeah, great. Jim, you and I go back several years, and we networked together at the GOA, and we bumped into each other other places. But you've been in real estate for quite a while,
right?
And why don't you tell us a little bit about Roppolo Realty, and how you got started, and kind of what makes Roppolo Realty different than a lot of other real estate companies?
Well, I can say that when I started, I've been doing it for 36 years. I've been selling real estate, helping people find their homes and sell property and things like that.
So you're still
what's that?
So you're still a rookie.
Yeah, still a rookie. Yeah. Well, Roppolo Realty was actually started by my father-in-law in 1955. So we're coming up on 70-year anniversary. My father-in-law unfortunately passed before I met him as my father-in-law and boss. It's a family-owned business. It's pretty much only been family working there. My sister-in-law is the broker, boss of the company.
Sure.
But I've been doing it for 36 years. We're also there's 2 of us that are state certified general real estate appraisers. So we used to do a lot of appraisal work for Parkway Bank, First Nations Bank, and other banks when building and everything was going crazy back in the early 2000s and things like that. But I've been doing it for a long time. Our physical office is in Norridge, Illinois, which is also where I grew up at, right near Lawrence and Harlem. And we still have an office there. Like I said, we've been around the area for 70 years. Our office actually right now is next to Allegrady's Bakery on Lawrence Avenue, which has been in the neighborhood probably as long as Roppolo Realty.
That's kind of fun. That's a great neighborhood too. It's I love that northwest side of Chicago. You drive down the streets and the lawns are all neatly manicured, and it's a great neighborhood.
Yeah.
So that's great. So you mentioned appraisals. So you do appraisals if for mortgage companies, or do you do appraisals
I
for
do not
individuals
do
that?
that anymore. When they had the big, the crash or whatever in the mid 2000s, 8, 9, 10,
Right.
they decided that the appraisal industry was part of the problem,
Sure.
and they moved all the where it used to be where a lender would call me and say, "Hey, I just took this loan. Can you do the appraisal?" And I'd say, "Yeah, terrific,"
Sure. Sure.
And we did, like I said, we did a lot of new construction from plans and all kinds of stuff. But then that happened, and they went to appraisal management companies, which they completely changed that industry. And I decided I didn't want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
So at the present,
Yeah. Lenders don't have any contact with the appraisers, and it's very
exactly.
off. Yeah.
And I'm sure there was probably some going on somewhere,
Sure. Of course.
but for the mainstream, it was not. So, and they made the whole thing ridiculous. So right now, I do appraisals for attorneys, accountants, other realtors, homeowners that want an unbiased opinion. That's what I'm still doing them, but I'm doing them for those, as
Okay.
attorneys, accountant, insurance guys.
Yeah. So
Um,
so if a family, if they have a family member that passes away, and
exactly.
they want to they need to appraise the property from a estate perspective, you would go in
Exactly.
and do that appraisal for them.
It's actually becoming, unfortunately, becoming a big market. I just took my continuing education for my appraisal license, and they actually have a class for doing estate appraisals and divorce appraisals because there must be a lot of them going on.
So why is there a difference? You would think an appraisal is an appraisal, right?
Yes, the appraisal is the appraisal, and to be honest, some of the logic in these classes was just common knowledge things. Like if you're
Sure.
working for it was kind of ridiculous. But yes, I do a lot of estate work. They need, if somebody passed away or somebody's making an estate, and they need to know what this is worth today, so they can, if they pass away or for the whole thing of it.
Yeah. So you could do an appraisal even if they don't list the home with you. You would obviously want, if they wanted you to list their home, you do the appraisal, and then they would say, okay, let's list my home. You can do that, but you're
Sure.
not required to do that, right? I mean, it's a separate transaction.
Yes, I couldn't appraise there has been a few occasions where either a realtor will call me because him or her and the seller can't agree on the
Oh,
asking
okay.
price.
Sure.
Um, Sometimes the seller does not want to call a realtor right off the bat, and they say, "Hey, I want you to come and give me an unbiased opinion." Then it's not really right for me to go back and say, "Hey, but I can sell it for you."
Right.
That's not really proper.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It does. Well, that's good. But I can see that being a really important aspect. The market right now is so um, unhinged, if you will. It's hard for the average consumer to know what the home is really worth. I don't know. Other than a guess, I don't really know how you know that. So I think you guys are really an important component in making sure that it's done correctly.
And I think that's one of the things you had asked earlier. What are one of the things that sets me apart? I think, and Roppolo Realty right now. Roppolo Realty consists of myself, my sister-in-law, and my nephews doing it. My son was in for a while. He does it kind of more on the side. Um, but I think what sets us apart is that we are appraisers. So when I go out to tell you, you call me and just say, Jim, I want to sell my property. I'm going to come out there and I'm going to kind of use. I know what the eventual appraiser is going to come out. The bank,
Right.
whoever buys the property, they're sending an appraiser out there. I know what he or she's going to look for, and so I'm going to give you the most um, accurate or reasonable sale price because I know you're going to take that number. My report's also going to give you. Someone say it's going to sell between 300 and 310. And I'll say, hey, Mike, if it sells at 300, these are your responsibilities as the home seller. There's going to be your tax prorations and title, and it will include my fee. So that the bottom line there, I know you're either you're moving up, downsizing, you're renting, whatever, but that number needs to be as accurate as I can get it. So I'm
Sure.
also going to then now we need to list the property. What are we going to ask for it? So that will be based on what is your competition right now, what's available similar to your home, and we base it that way. You know,
Right.
I think that's what gives me and I've actually had to fight uh, other appraisers that have appraising a couple of times appraised the house that I sold, and they came in undervalued.
Really? Okay.
So then I look at their appraisals, and two of the times, and I wouldn't want anybody to do this to my appraisal, but a couple of the times I had to go, that's wrong. I don't know where this guy got that, and I actually got it reversed for my client. So
Sure. Sure. So that knowledge is power in your case.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you, I would imagine a lot of homeowners, might shop with multiple realtors to
Sure.
figure out what, maybe whether it be a chemistry thing they're looking for, or see who's going to get the best value, the best price for their house. But you can come to the table with your skills as a trained and certified appraiser. So they should have more confidence that if you say the house is worth 375, it's worth 375.
Yeah,
And
I like to be the low to the conservatively, because I know what they're looking for. The asking price is going to tell us is there any extra money out there for us?
sure.
Maybe the competitors are not as good as we are right now. Maybe there's a few extra bucks. Maybe you have something in your home that I cannot put a value on, but we might find that person says, well, I love that heater in the garage, or, my mother-in-law lives down the street. Those things that I don't know, or I can't uh, justifiably put a value on for you.
Right, right. But that's, yeah, some of those soft benefits add value to the property, even
That's a
though
good
it's
word.
not
That's a good word.
hard, concrete, value.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
it's and one of the other things I think also being an appraiser is when I'm working with the buyers. I work with a lot of buyers, um, and like I said, being in the business as long as I have, it's 100% referral. So I'm working. I've made jokes that I'm selling houses to kids of my friends and friends of my kids, which jokingly I take very seriously, because I inside I wouldn't let them buy a house that I wouldn't sell to one of my kids, or one that I wouldn't buy myself without knowing everything I can about it.
Sure. Yeah.
I've actually walked through houses with young people, and while they're off looking at all the finishes and everything, I might come back and say, "Hey, did you see this?" And none of it good news or bad news, but things that they should see
And make a decision.
and make a decision. I had one guy, he was a tall guy. I said, we were looking at a story and a half home. I said, you can only walk on one side of this, and
Yeah.
I had another house in Arlington Heights. We went back a second time. We brought dad back to see this house. And I, from the beginning, thought this was a bad house. It was a rehab that was done badly.
Mm,
And I don't know anything about construction. And I saw stuff. We
right.
brought the dad back. He wanted to go up in the attic, and the rungs broke off. And I said, you can't really go up there. And he goes, my son's not buying this house unless I can get up there. And I turned to the kid and I said, I wouldn't let you buy this house. We both know there's things going on here. The father was very appreciative, but
Yeah. Sometimes, sometimes that's hard for a buyer when they fall in love with a home to hear.
exactly.
But the worst thing that would happen is if you don't tell them that, and 6 weeks later they're like, "Oh shoot, what happened?" And
Yeah.
now they're stuck.
I need them to be happy a year from the closing, not the day of the closing.
Right, right. Well, and you think about it, you've been doing this for 35 years. You're not a flash in the pan. You're in it for the long haul. You've
Right.
been doing it for a long time, and I think that longevity holds a lot of value, because there's a lot of realtors that pop in the market when the market gets hot, and then as soon as things get a little hot, they jump out.
Yeah. Yeah. That happened back in the early 2000s. And now
Yeah,
we might be seeing a few getting out because of the recent changes, so
yeah. The,
it's,
the buyer's agents thing. Yeah, I want to touch on that briefly here,
uh
but I want to take a quick break here. Let's throw a commercial in from our sponsor and then come back. And I want to talk about a few other questions I have for you and the
Sure.
market as overhaul. So, but before we do that, why don't you share for our listeners the best way to contact you? Is it email? Is it phone? Your text? How do you want somebody to reach out to you?
The very best way to get a hold of me is my cell phone,
Okay.
which is 847 830 1693. Email is good also, but the quickest and best way is text me or call me.
Text or call. Okay. 847-830-1693.
Correct.
I'll put that on the screen. It'll be in the notes, and we'll repeat it again towards the end of the show so our listeners can reach out to you and get started
Great.
with an appraisal or a listing or a purchase of a home, whatever.
Perfect.
All right. So, and then obviously to our listeners, when you do reach out to Jim, make sure you let him know that you heard about him here on I Got a Guy podcast, so we can connect the dots. It's all about how that works. But let's take a short break, come back, and we'll continue chatting here with Jim Griseto from Roppolo Realty. So we'll be right back.
All right.
Thank you for listening to I Got a Guy podcast. I hope you're getting a lot of knowledge from this week's guest. But now a word from our sponsor. If your business uses heavy equipment as part of its daily routine, sadly, I don't need to educate you on the reality that this equipment has been the focus of many local thieves either. Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions works with business owners that own commercial vehicles and heavy equipment. We help these business owners enhance their growth and profit through the use of GPS tracking technology. Recovering a stolen asset is just one way we contribute to the bottom line of the business. Our GPS tracking units used in heavy equipment are weather tight so they can handle the elements and even have an internal battery to continue to report its location should the battery in the asset be disconnected. We have several examples of the benefits of GPS tracking in heavy equipment. Reach out to Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions for a detailed discussion about our options and to see if it makes sense for your business. You can find Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions at precisefleettracking.com. That's precisefleettracking.com. Or call us at 847-865-6008. Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions. GPS tracking made simple. Now, back to the show. Okay, we are back. Thank you for sticking with us. I am Michael Drelichars, host of I Got a Guy podcast. Thank you for checking us out this week. We are speaking with Jim Griseto from Roppolo Realty and learn all about the history of Roppolo Realty, but also about Jim's experience as a certified appraiser, which is not I don't think it's that common in the industry, right?
No, actually, a certified general real estate appraiser means I can appraise any type of property from a condominium to a large commercial industrial building.
Even commercial and industrial. Wow.
I
Okay.
do not do those anymore because it got too expensive to get I don't do as many of them as I used to.
Sure.
Plus the subscription to get those those large property comparables, it got to be too expensive for me to justify. So I do residential property up to large apartment buildings and small commercial freestanding.
Okay, great. But and that's not all that common, right? Most realtors don't have that certification. So you're kind of a
They
unique animal.
I got my appraiser's license in 1991 when they first started making appraisers get licenses. Right now, you have to have a college degree. You have to have so many hours of tutorship, so to speak. Meaning they would have to find me and they follow me around and I got to go over their work. And there are people that are doing it, larger appraisal offices.
Sure.
We're not equipped for that, but it is much more difficult to do it now.
Yeah.
And, I guess the way to do it is probably, if you're going to do it, be the certified one. Because realistically, the paychecks are bigger if you're going to do it.
Yeah, of course. But you also add a lot more value to your transactions
Sure.
because of that knowledge you have. So that's awesome. And I know a lot of realtors. I network a ton, as you know, and I meet a lot of realtors, but I don't recall last time I met a realtor that's a certified appraiser. So I was pretty sure you were unique in that market. But I think that's a tremendous benefit for you and your clients.
I think so. Yeah. Like I said, what I was telling you, when I'm working with with the buyers also, not only when they're looking for things that they should see, but when they find a home that they want to buy, I'm also doing that appraisal thing. I'm going to say, hey, they're asking $320 for it. here's a few that sold in the neighborhood within the last 6 to 9 months. I think it's worth 300 to 310.
Right.
You know, there's no exact price, but at least I can give them,
A
we
range.
go in with an educated offer and go from there.
So how does the there are some neighborhoods where people are paying or have paid 50, 60, 80,000 dollars more than the asking price, and it's above the appraised value. Does that change the appraised value of the home, or is that fluff?
That's that's a great question. I kind of hate this market right now, especially if you're buyers. You got, I don't know the mentality of people paying so much over asking price unless they really, really have to have a house right now. I don't get it. And I know inventory is low, but that's just my opinion.
Sure.
Um, I've only had a few buyers over the last few years that paid um, over asking. Uh, in each instance, I would tell most of them are first time home buyers, and I would paint every ugly picture that I can so they know exactly what can and can't and might happen.
Right.
A lot of times, my first clients, it was 10,000 over years ago. That appraised out at that value. I had another client in Darien. They paid $35,000 over asking price. That appraised out. Um, if it doesn't appraise out, what that means is these people have to come up with that much extra cash, because a lot of times if you're in that type of a situation, they've asked you to waive the appraisal. So I don't recommend that at all.
No, I would never
Um,
do
but
that.
um, but and these days, unfortunately, if you really want the house, sometimes you got to do it. Fortunately, the people that I dealt with had some extra cash, but I did paint that ugly picture. I said,
Yeah.
this could happen, just so
Yeah.
you know.
Worst case scenario. Yeah. Yeah. Be prepared for it. Um,
Yeah.
so, um, so if a house does, you said there were some situations where a house did appraise for the added price, but it doesn't always happen that way. So they got to
No,
reach in their pocket for 30 grand or 40 grand, which
if they did not waive the appraisal portion, then they have to come up with the difference.
yeah. If they didn't waive it, then they could walk away from the home. If they waive the appraisal
Yes.
requirement, then they're locked into that home, or they
If
found
they
another way
if
out.
they waive that requirement, yes, then they're locked in no matter what it comes to. If they don't waive it, there's always if it doesn't appraise to the purchase price, we can renegotiate or we can walk.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, are you seeing many people nowadays waiving the home inspections? I've heard of that going on during the peak of the market.
Not my clients.
Yeah.
You know, again, that's another one of those things. If they're thinking about doing it, I discourage that, or I say, are you comfortable enough? Like I said, all my clients are 100% referred. I said, I know if they're knowledgeable enough about things to say, I'm
You got
good
the
with what
skills.
I see.
Right.
Okay. Because the inspector is going to come in. He's taking the cover off the electric box, going
Mm.
in the attic, doing all that stuff. So I need, it doesn't happen very often that, it's always a well spent, and that they've gotten expensive, maybe, 450, 550. Um, you know,
Yeah.
I
I,
don't
I
see it happen too often, but, sometimes they say,
yeah.
no, we're good.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard of that happening, and I think that's a major mistake. I mean, even if it's $500, the chances of a foundation issue that could cost you an awful lot of money to repair, a bad roof, a mold issue, who knows what. It's just too risky.
Exactly.
But people they fall in love with some homes, and they can't get
With
past.
me, yeah. In my business, it hasn't happened too often,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and it's probably because you are coming through with all your referrals, because people know they trust you, and they probably they 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 know your demeanor, your style, you're very conservative in nature, and that's
Yeah.
you know, but if they're, picking you out of the a random, you may get some folks that are, have much different ideas. And I could see that being more of an issue.
Correct, especially these days in age, you don't, if it's not referrals and people that and it's it's representation is a big issue these days.
Right, right, right. So now, how does that fold in with the new law changing with the buyer's agent, and how it's a separately negotiated fee?
Yeah.
The end result is going to be the same, or are the buyers going to pay more?
So far, buyers are not paying more. So far, as we're 2 months into this,
Right,
what I'm seeing is that it's an extra piece of paper. Technically, I guess it's different because everybody I work with is a referral. Technically, anybody if I want to show houses, I need to have my buyer sign with me saying, if this guy doesn't pay me, you will. Um, I'm probably not doing that with it because these people are all, I know them or I know where they're coming from.
right,
But technically, you're supposed to get us, we're going to go see this house today. So either I have to call that agent, that listing agent, and I say, hey, I want to show your home. Is your buyer, is your seller cooperating? If he is, I say, fine. If I happen to write a contract, there is now a special addendum that we're asking the seller to pay Roppolo Realty a commission in the amount of this, which is negotiable all over the place. If by chance, and I haven't run into it yet, and I wouldn't recommend it if the seller says, you know what, I'm going to pay you, but anybody else, their broker is going to pay them, or their client is going to pay them. Well, in this day, it's not like years and years ago where you had 10% down, 20% down. People didn't even start looking till they had they have programs now, which fortunately allows people to buy at 3%, 3.5%. So if they're only putting that down, they don't have money to pay me.
right. That's the biggest
So,
problem. Right,
which I tell my sellers that I said, here's the reality of it is, and the way it's been for years and years and years, it's built into your price already. It's built into what I told your house is worth. So I would recommend that if somebody asks us, you pay the brokers. My opinion.
right, right. Well, and you think about it, getting back to your point about the lower down payments now, in a market, people think, oh, I need 3.5%. And they're thinking, well, I'll buy a $300,000 house with 3.5%, and I'll have 10 grand and I'll be good. But you have closing costs, and then you have, if you have to pay the buyer's fee, you might need a heck of a lot more than that. You will need a lot more than that. And I think it's kind of downplayed in the market. And I would imagine as a skilled realtor, you're educating your clients very upfront, very clearly. This is how
Again,
much
yeah,
you're going to need, so you're not wasting your time.
exactly. It all boils down to, nobody likes surprises.
Yeah,
So I would rather over explain and over talk about what could possibly happen and not happen than not tell you this and you think, wow, I didn't know that could happen. Well, I got to tell you, that's why I'm here. I need to tell you what can happen,
right.
what might happen, what good news, bad news, everything.
Well, the best thing would happen is you tell your buyer you need $20,000 for this closing, and at the end of the day, it only costs them 18. They get an extra $2,000 in their pocket. Never a bad thing.
Yeah. I think in general, they're going to the seller first and saying, buyers agents are going to the seller and say, listing agent, is your guy offering compensation? And if he is, how much is he or she offering? Great. Or they might say, yes, they are, but it's all negotiable, which in this day's market, now you got, and I haven't run across it, but I can see where the seller says, you know what, I'm going to pay you, and we're getting multiple offers. let me see what all these other, because now it's a money thing.
Sure.
How much is this broker? What is their offer, and how much compensation do they want?
Right. Right.
Okay, so now I measure these all out. I haven't run into it, but I can see that happening.
Yeah, certainly can complicate things. So, here in the Chicago market, how are you seeing the market evolve? Is it slowing down a little bit? I mean, certainly
Well,
time of
I
year,
think
right?
so. What's that?
Is this time of year things start to slow down a little bit, right?
Things do start to slow down about now. Typically, we still have a little bit of inventory on a little on the lower side. Interest rates are still, they're doing that. Um, and sometimes people throw in the election. And for the life of me, I don't know why your decision to buy or not buy a house is based on the election.
Gotta live somewhere.
Yeah, I've heard this every 4 years. It's like, oh, okay, well, I don't get it, but okay. Um, but it does typically slow down. I've always told people in the past that sometimes if you don't have to buy a house, starting in fall, close to the holidays, is a good time to buy a house, because if it's up, there's either a reason. Sometimes, somebody got sick, somebody got divorced, the house is vacant, they're paying taxes, they're paying heat. If there's any time that maybe you'll shave a few bucks, maybe it's going to be now. Who knows?
Right. Yeah, I would think that when there's a little less competition, you wait till February. They typically used to say after Super Bowl Sunday, the market heats up, right? Is that
I
still the
always say that Super Bowl Sunday, if everything starts after that.
is that still the case?
I think so. I'd say that all the time.
Yeah, yeah. So then, I mean, and who knows? Maybe come the spring of next year, rates do come down a little bit further. Get
That's
into
what they're
the
saying.
high fives, low sixes, or what have you. It could bring a lot more people into the market with
I just
still limited inventory, right?
Yes, there is still a limited inventory, although it's there are some homes still sticking in the market. I have a house for sale right now in Harwood Heights that I thought would go a little quicker than it did. Um, it's a beautiful house in my old neighborhood, and maybe I'm biased to my old neighborhood. I don't know.
Right, right.
But I did just read. I'm doing another craft talk, so to speak, tomorrow morning, and a guy asked me a question about uh, new construction, single family over the last few years, been non-existent, because nobody's building. And I had to research that, but they're saying confidence is up in new construction, and they feel early 2025 they're going to start building new homes in areas, new construction.
Meaning a tear down of an existing home and got a
Maybe
lot of land,
new
right?
subdivisions and things like that.
Oh,
It's
really?
I didn't read the whole thing yet, but that's what they're saying. Builder confidence is up.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
certainly know in the collar counties, there's a lot of building going on.
yeah.
But in the Chicagoland area, right near O'Hare Airport and around that, I mean, I don't know that there's that much land to build on.
No, you're right. There's around there. I live in Des Plaines, and around here, it is going to be. It's not subdivisions. It's, hey, I'm going to tear that little house down and I'm going to put up a big house. That kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, yeah. But so that could be good. But there certainly isn't, I think, a need for more supply. And
Yes.
what do you see much in the area of investment properties? 3 flats, 2 flats, 4 flats?
Uh, well, I haven't been in that market. I haven't had a buyer looking for that kind of thing lately, but they're certainly available. Although commercial rates are probably similar or run tangent to residential rates.
Yeah.
Um, I don't, I don't have the correct answer for that, or I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah.
Certainly, that stuff is available. 2 flats, 3 flats. You do hear stories now about people saying, I can't afford a house on my own, so I'm going to buy this and rent out and get part of my money back. Or, hey, why don't we buy a 2 flat? Like, you know,
Right.
in the old days, everybody lived in one building.
Right. Yeah. I love that idea. And when I do drive around, I see, Park Ridge, Des Plaines, Norwich, a lot of 3 flats, or in some cases 6 flats, but even 2 flats and 3 flats. I don't see very many for sale. And I
No,
haven't.
like this, they're very expensive. I mean,
They are pretty expensive, certainly.
yeah, in the Norwich and Harwood Heights area, there's these 6 flats on Harlem Avenue, just north of of Lawrence Avenue, north of Gunnison, six flats, they're getting 1 million plus
Yeah.
for a six flat.
Yeah. Well, and rents are high nowadays.
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
so if you have a 3 bedroom, those are renting for north of $2,000 a month, probably close to $2,500 a month.
Sure.
That's
Sure.
a strong rent. I mean, it's my daughter is 23. She wants to get on her own. She can't afford that kind of rent. So it's just it's a tough market,
It
and
is.
I'm not sure where the breaking point is or how it's going to straighten itself out. But it seems to be really imbalanced right now.
It is. Yeah, but yeah, well, yeah, with the lack of inventory, and hopefully that'll, hopefully if the it'll tip a little bit more for the buyers, so that they
Yeah.
can play more of an even game here. That's lately with when I've had buyers, I'm like, you're losing them, or you're in multiple presentations, and
Right.
now you're like I told you earlier, in a typical transaction, if I'm working with the buyer, I like to say, hey, have enough time to say, hey, here's a few that sold. This is what we should offer before I get the call from the listing agent and says, hey, we got another offer. We're getting highest and best by tomorrow at 5.
Yeah.
And now that the rest of that is all out the door.
That's a tough way to buy.
Yes, it's not right. But
It's a tough way to, well, not necessarily a tough way. It's tough to feel like you got a good value. Nobody wants to overpay, and some people do, but you want to, it's just really it's difficult, I think, to have
it
confidence
is.
that you didn't overpay.
It is very, that's the whole thing back, hey, the old phrase, did I get a good deal?
Right.
No, you paid what you paid what you had to pay for it because you
Right.
want it. I
Right.
don't know. It doesn't sound, that's not the right answer, but that is the answer.
Right. Right. Well, and I know a lot of people, are sitting on their COVID refinance, 2.5% mortgages. They would love to move, but they don't want to move because now they're going to get into a house and they have a 6% mortgage.
Yeah.
And so I think and until the rates come down, you know, to a closer to where people have refinanced, I think it's going to continue to be a strain on the availability.
Correct.
But once that happens, I think the floodgates may open and then it may be back to a normal market.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I hope you're right. And everything I'm reading supposedly is leaning towards that in 2025.
Is that right?
A little more realistic market, or market friendly for both sides.
Right.
You know,
Right.
back to, some of the houses are sticking on the market a little longer because they started too high
Right.
because of this crazy market. Hey, well, this guy got that. I'm going to try it.
Right.
Maybe, again, sometimes you can tell sometimes a house has been on the market too long. And I like to look at the history. Like if my client's looking at it and say, okay, was it off the market for a reason? Did they start too high? Or sometimes you get into the house and maybe they've done something to the home that is not generally acceptable.
Right.
They love it, but most people don't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what are you going to do now?
Or you get that rehabber that didn't do a very good job and the house has got some problems.
I see so much of that. And again, like I said, I don't know anything about construction. Sometimes I can see little things and I'm like, this is what I can see. What am I not seeing?
Right. Right. But yeah. Yeah. That's a risk. Well, but still, when you come down to it, you're even though you may not be a construction expert, the fact that you've got 35 years of experience and that appraisal knowledge behind you has got to carry a lot of weight with your clients. And so I'm sure your clients are all in good hands when you get them on board and start taking them around from house to house. And hopefully you find them their dream home, and they stay for a long time and raise a family
Yeah.
and get good and settled in. And I think most people hate to move. So you want to get into a house and stay, right?
Yeah.
Moving's a hassle.
Some people said that people move every 7 years, and I'm like, I'm in my house here for 37 years. I'm throwing that factor way off.
Yeah, yeah. I think I don't know how how they come with that calculation because I know a lot of people that hate moving. I've been to my house for 21 years now, and I don't relish the idea of packing and everything up. We
Yeah, no,
we
me
accumulate
neither.
too much stuff.
Yeah,
It's nuts. It's a lot of work. But
yeah.
well, that's awesome, and I'm happy that things are going well for you, and that you're able to continue to serve clients. And I love to hear about those family businesses like Roppolo Realty, and the fact that it's been handed down for the generations. And you said your nephew's in the business now, so it's going to continue. Roppolo
It
Realty
will.
is continue in the family,
Yep.
and
We should be around a little bit longer. Yeah.
that's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully we're around to celebrate the 100th anniversary. That'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
that's
would be
great.
terrific. Yeah.
Well, Jim, I really appreciate you sharing some time with us today. Anything else you wanted to share with our listeners about whether it's something unique about you personally or your approach to helping people?
Well, you know, like I said, my approach is that like I've been doing it for such a long time. I take good care of these people. Like I said, I don't need them to be happy the day of the closing. Everybody should be happy that day. I need them to be happy a year from now because they knew everything they needed to know about it that day. And I don't want them in a month from now, say, man, I can't wait to get out of here. I wish we never bought this place. Again, one of my questions when I'm working with buyers is, hey, how long are you going to be? At the first question, you're going to be, is this your 3-year home, your 5-year home, or your forever home? Because it's a difference,
Yeah,
you know? Yeah.
most definitely.
This thing that you think is really cool today might not be so cool in 3 years or next year,
Right,
you know?
right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there definitely is some value in knowing that factor. And so good,
It's
good. Well, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate that. And share again for our listeners, what's the best way to reach you?
the best way to reach me and the quickest way is my phone number. My cell is 847-830-1693. My email is also good. It's J Griseto, Griseto at RoppoloRealtors.com. And that's also our website, RoppoloRealtors.com. You can go there and read about our founder and all of our staff, or not many staff, there's only 4 of us. But there's also kinds of testimonials and search products and things like that on there. That's
Great.
RoppoloRealtors.com.
Great. Okay, cool. I will again put that information on the screen and in our notes so our listeners can find that and reach out to you and
Great.
have you help them. So I appreciate your time um, and look forward to catching up with you again at another networking event here soon.
Well, I
And
appreciate it, Mike.
yeah, and to our listeners, thank you for checking us out again this week. I encourage you to share this episode with your circle of friends on social media, whether it be LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, what have you. We want to get the word out here and get Jim's message out to people all around and see where you can come up with somebody that can use his services. So we appreciate that. And again, I'm Michael Drelichars, not only host of I Got a Guy podcast, but I also own Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions. And we look forward to helping our clients with GPS tracking needs. So, but anyway, at this point, let's wrap up the show, and we will talk with you all again very soon, hopefully next week. So, thanks for everything. We'll talk to you
Thank
soon.
you, Mike.
Bye now. Thank you for listening to I Got a Guy podcast. For past podcasts and more information, go to igotaguypodcast.com. That's igotaguypodcast.com. Please share this podcast on your social media feeds and tune in again next week to I Got a Guy podcast.